come to a point when our life just falls apart as we know it, even if we've, ticked all the boxes or looked to create something, it can evaporate. But that's also a gateway. It's a gateway to new versions of ourselves and whole new lives.
Kevin took up the whittle, the challenge, and caught one of the biggest fish we caught down there last winter. Amazing
Yeah,
fish. Tell us
incredible,
about that
incredible.
experience, brother, before we get into the rest of the corridor.
The well-being space and the men's space, and then of course the Waihau Bay. That was just an education. That was such a privilege to join you down there. I was keen to come down and get schooled in the in the hunt for Southern Bluefin, and also for me, to actually, I was there to cook the fish, right, and just explore some things there. But so blessed to join you on that.
Just
That's
setting the
it.
lures and boom.
Bang.
You're on, brother. You're on.
Who's But what really struck me was the food that was being produced that weekend. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Excuse my language. It was plant-based food, but it was beyond anything I'd ever experienced before. We know what Kai offers, we know what good Kai offers, but I think the missing link I'm looking to fill in is what we get from the practice of cooking. And to some degree, that's how I've been living the last couple of years. I've just been saying yes to things that are aligned and no to things that are not. And then I find myself surrounded by people like yourself and connecting with fields, which are popping up more and more. The sort of the confluence of men's work and well-being and rites of passage. And I've literally spent the last 2 months traveling the country, tapping into different little pockets of, revolution, I would say. Revolution or evolution.
With love, right? So like we're really gonna put some aroha and healing into this food so that men go away feeling lighter and refreshed and recalibrated and healing and whole and human. As above, so below. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
like provider, as men, we feel we should be the provider, providing for others. Actually, the meaning of this word really is, are you attuned to everything that the universe is providing for you? Are you ready to receive that?
Through cooking, I realized it's an avenue for me to have a lived experience of abundance
Mm.
and to step out of the paradigm of survival. And I think this is the paradigm we've been living in as human beings for 20 odd thousand years.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to another corridor, and today I have Kevin with me from the Wholefood Kitchen. Welcome, Kevin.
Kia ora, Carl. Good to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's
Good
good
to
to
see
have
you.
you, brother. And I know this, I have a knowing that this corridor might end up reasonably long, but I like that idea. And I like the potential weavings that are going to come through.
Mm.
And we are just over a week out from the Aotearoa Men's Wellbeing Summit, which is one of the reasons I've been getting back into recording these conversations with some of the brothers who are coming along to the summit and helping to weave their magic through it. And I thought it was high time we talked about one of my favorite subjects, which is Kai. And this year we've got Kevin from the Wholefood Kitchen coming along to cook up some Kai, share the magic of Kai. And I thought probably the best way to start this discussion is let's talk to how we first connected, Kevin, and that is over in Whaingaroa, Raglan,
Mm.
at Poutama. So leading into last year's summit, I thought I'd go and check out the work that Tiaki and the team at Poutama are doing. And Kevin was weaving his magic there in the kitchen and wearing your Whole Food Kitchen cap there, brother. And I thought
Branded
this
up.
there's an interesting fella. And I saw your ears prick up when I started talking about some of the work that I'm doing with men as well. And from there on in, we sort of kept in touch. Kevin
Mm.
reached out to come to Waihau Bay last winter and do a bit of cooking while I had various teams there chasing bluefin tuna. And I said, Kevin, you're gonna come out one of these days. There's a spot for you on the boat. And Kevin took up the wero, the challenge, and caught one of the biggest fish we caught down there last winter. Amazing
Yeah,
fish. Tell us
incredible,
about that
incredible.
experience, brother, before we get into the rest of the
Uh,
corridor.
well, there's just been so much synchronicity. I mean, they talk about weaving. This is all about weaving, right? So these particular strands, how I first met Carl in the Ngāhere up in Whaingaroa, in service and exploration around rites of passage from a Mātauranga Māori, tikanga Māori point of view, and this is that was the start of it, obviously, and then I went down and I was very intrigued by what your particular strand, what you're offering in the wellbeing space and the men's space, and then of course the Waihau Bay. That was just an education. That was such a privilege to join you down there. I was keen to come down and get schooled in the in the hunt for Southern Bluefin, and also for me, to actually, I was there to cook the fish, right, and just explore some things there. But so blessed to join you on that day out, and to hook up straight away, you know, 5 minutes after, settling in, and yeah, just total incredible experience. Yeah, just still look back on that as one of the key as you say, wero, the challenge of actually getting out there and trying to bring this monster on the boat.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think I think we only had two lures in that morning. Yeah, just
that's
setting the
it.
lures and boom,
Bang.
you're on, brother. You're on.
Who's and we can talk about what that offers. It's not just about the food we produce, but how we produce it and what what is offered by time spent in the kitchen.
Ultimately, I have to pay homage to my mother
Mm,
there, who pretty much ran our
yeah.
kitchen at home, but also my grandmothers and just the love they showed for our extended whānau.
I think it's a spiritual pathway simply because you're developing all your senses, your sensibility, your sensitivity, your sensuality. It's extremely powerful because not only does that open up, but it's the senses beyond that.
Mm.
It's the sense of synchronicity. It's a sense of like magic that starts to occur. Cooking is an incredible way to engage with your kids, right? Up and it was like I was next to the rod, then we
Yeah,
were away.
and yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty rough, pretty rough.
Mm.
And then we had some other brothers on, and
Yeah.
yeah, you had to stay out there for a little while, and was
Yeah.
pretty real conditions. So good on you, brother. Good on you for hearing the call and coming down, and what beautiful fish that was to
Uh,
savor.
I should say as well, that was an education for me, and it's something I'd like to weave into this conversation, just being in that special place, which I hadn't realized was, Waihau Bay, Cape Runaway. I got to meet the local iwi and hear the stories of the origin stories of how the first tribes first arrived in New Zealand. That's in the bay adjacent, right? So
Parawa.
exactly,
Yeah.
and so that was just incredible. And then it was really an exercise. That's what I want to infuse through just a lived experience of abundance, right?
Mm.
Of you pull in a fish like that, and it's not just going to feed you; it's going to feed hundreds. And there's plenty to go around, and that was part of a whole journey over that whole week. Yeah.
Awesome, brother.
Mm.
So probably to kick off, tell
Mm.
me or the listeners a little bit about what is the
Yeah.
Whole Food Kitchen and what are its origins? And my first question leading into that is,
Hmm.
what does food mean to you?
Well, I'm quite privileged, I think, with this sort of my journey. I grew up in Kirikiriroa, so I'm a boy from the Waikato. Um, I actually traveled over to the UK in my first career, which is in design. So I did a master's in design. But while I was in England, I came across an institute there called the Concord Institute of Integral Studies. And what I didn't realize at the time, but I look back now, it's almost like a synthesis, or it's got lineage connection where Oriental medicine first hit the West, direct lineage with the center that organization grew out of in London. And what happened there, someone came across from America who'd connected and trained with the modern stream of macrobiotics. So Michio Kushi, who's sort of like the modern father, I guess, of macrobiotics and understanding of of yin and yang, or qualities of food from a Oriental perspective and a healing perspective.
Mm.
So the director of the Concord came across and said he'd come through a transpersonal program, so transformational work, self-development work, and he said, what if we fuse macrobiotic cooking with personal development work? So the pursuit of healing, growth, transformation, but we link it to the somatic. So we link it to the biology and energy of food. And so this is 2005, I did a weekend program, which was about, what is it to be human being? What is the nature of human being? What do we come up against in our development, which we, end up in a tussle with throughout our whole lives? But what really struck me was the food that was being produced that weekend. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Excuse my language. It was plant-based food, but it was beyond anything I'd ever experienced before. And I said, something interesting is happening here. And I ended up just signing up. Firstly, the weekend was incredible, but I ended up finding out that there was a whole cooking school as a foundational practice as part of this development work, the program that was offered at Concord, and an extraordinary teacher I trained under for over 10 years, longer, Jean Torné, who was trained in classical French cuisine, but he came from North Africa, so he was infused in the culture of food and traditions of food, both from I guess a chef tradition, but also a cultural tradition. And so I lapped it up. It's a sort of volunteer thing. You cook for retreats, you do cooking classes, and I ended up partnering with him for the best part of 10 years to offer the cooking school, offer different seasonal. I did a whole program of training myself in seasonal cooking across different cuisines, trained under some of the world's leading whole food and macrobiotic chefs. Cooks, or this is sort of bridging the world of cooking and chefing.
Mm.
And you say my relationship with food, I'd say my relationship with food is really connected with my relationship with cooking. So cooking to me has become a practice, and we can talk about what that offers. It's not just about the food we produce, but how we produce it and what is offered by time spent in the kitchen.
Mm.
And I've had an extraordinary experience of that personally, of when you're learning how to cook, you're not just learning how to produce food well, it's a process of healing and transformation that takes place that you're engaged with personally.
Mm.
You can literally, and I think we all have an experience of this. I think in a way, we know what Kai offers, we know what good Kai offers, but I think the missing link I'm looking to fill in is what we get from the practice of cooking as a discipline that's available to us each and every day, 3 times a day more, where we can really take a moment to opt out from the distraction, the noise. We can really come into connection with our tinana, our body physically. We can clear away our emotions. We can actually sort of notice and acknowledge our emotional state, but transform them in the service of something else.
Mm.
We connect to the earth. We connect to the gratitude for what we have in front of us. We transcend, we step into the present moment, but we also step into a broader experience of time, of like appreciation of what's in front of us and what it's taken for what's in front of us to be available to us. The growing in the earth and the work of the farmers and the producers and the harvest and the people that harvest our food, and also the energy which we make available to ourselves and what we can then do in the future, ourselves and our family. So it's a very, it's something I can speak for hours about, and I have done. I've recorded lots of videos. So these different aspects of what is it that we do when we cook. And my teacher, Jean Torné, bless him, I'm still in touch with him. I'm actually speaking to him tonight because we're still in contact. But cooking classes, we would actually sit in conversation around what is it to be human? What is it to eat food? What are we doing when we do that? When we actually bring intentionality and consciousness to it. And I feel blessed that my path in the last few years particularly has been like, right, this is the time for me to to make those spaces available and to actually offer that to people.
Mm.
And that's not just in cooking food for people, but actually making spaces for people to have that experience of like tapping into a very rich, deep experience of what it is to be human. Because I think there's so many angles to this, but one of the key ones is that us cooking and eating food is directly related to our development into human beings, like the process of evolution. It's what part of the transition from ape to human was about, moving away from raw, undigested food, making energy available for us to actually biologically develop, for our brains to develop, to move beyond the ape. There's some pretty interesting science around that. And I don't think that's the only strand and it's just a theory, but it makes some sense to actually bring that level of consciousness to what we're putting into our bodies.
Mm.
And also in the process of making food, that we are actually making an energetic contribution to the food that we prepare for ourselves. So, we pretty much know when our food is prepared with love and attention.
That's the one, brother.
Yeah.
Well, so many beautiful threads in that. And I hear the word human in there quite a few times. And if you break that word down, human literally means one, coming together as one. Yeah. And I hear the word when you're talking about cooking, I sort of heard the concept of presence, coming into the presence. And you know, in the world of well-being and spirituality, there's a couple of words that came to mind: yoga and meditation. And cooking, that yoga doesn't have to be someone standing there doing some crazy pose.
Mm.
Cooking can be yoga, and meditation is not necessarily sitting there cross-legged. Cooking can be meditation as well. Yeah, it's about
100%.
yoga. Essentially means union, like that word human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and meditation ultimately means coming into presence and stillness, which I think you can get through cooking as well. And let's
Beautiful.
face it, we
Beautiful.
cook. We're supposed to have around 2 or 3 meals every day, and so it is something we need to do every day to nourish our mind, body, and our spirit.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
it's a good thing to think about: what are we putting into our
Yeah.
body, which then dictates the quality of our thoughts and emotions.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and when you're talking about the origins of food, I immediately started thinking back to some of my earliest memories of cooking. So ultimately, I have to pay homage to my mother
Mm.
there, who pretty much ran our
Yeah.
kitchen at home, but also my grandmothers and just the love they showed for our extended whānau through
Mm.
their cooking. Would go down to my nana's on a Sunday night, and the meals would always be absolutely amazing. I still, every time I have mint sauce, I think of my nana's mint sauce. And every time I
Yeah.
smell fire or fish smoking, I think of being down the coast at Te Kaha, near where we were fishing at Waihau Bay, where my grandparents used to go camping in summer. And my grandmother always
Mm.
cooked over an open fire. And these are some of the things that come to me: cooking and food. It, to me, is culture. To me, is community. To me, is whānau. Every time I travel, it's like
Yeah.
the essence of travel to me is what shows up in the food that you have on a plate when you go to you're at having street food or in a restaurant or looking at
Yeah.
the markets. Food is what ties us all together. Hey, brother.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And there's a few threads in what you've said already. There's a couple of things I want to weave into our conversation, even if we don't get into the full depth of it right now. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that too, the memory quality and the memories of creating memories. I think we all tune into that very, very naturally. We all have, we come together to share food together. The
Mm.
connection is not just with ourselves and the people around us and that the food we create, but also that moment of connection, which creates memories, but also, it connects to that stream of our own memories and also memories of the human experience of hundreds and thousands of years of like cultural traditions of things that have been discovered. I only have gratitude now for like who on earth discovered how to make coffee? Who on earth worked that out? To sort of transform the coffee bean into something of such, and chocolate and all. You could look at everything, which has been it's hundreds and thousands of years of acquired knowledge would pass down often through the grandmothers. So you cannot but be connected to that gratitude for the mother, the literal mother and the mothers and the earth mother. The one thing I do want to introduce, because I've been on a bit of a pilgrimage. I was based in the UK for 20 years, but I would be coming back to Aotearoa to school myself up on things Māori, I think, and then also the history of our country. And I came across the word Kotahitanga maybe 20 years ago. And I was like, wow, I love that word. That really speaks to me. And I came across it in different contexts, but I'm like, there's something about that word, oneness, unity, harmony, it's pointing to something which I can really resonate with. And at the same time, obviously, the whole inquiry at the moment around the treaty and honoring of the treaty and what that means. And I grew up as a kid, like in the Waikato, not fully immersed or connected with Māori culture, but very, very moved by it. It's a wisdom that even with my limited understanding, I could understand the common sense of it and the depth of it. And I think I was looking for a way. I think I was called back to Aotearoa because I want to make a contribution to realizing the potential of the treaty. Because to me, it offered a real promise. It offered a promise of partnership and sovereignty and mutual exchange. There's a whakatauki I came across the last few years. Naku te roro, no te roro, ka ora ai te iwi. With my basket and with your basket, we will all prosper. And that to me is the essence of what the promise, at least, of what the treaty, potential for the treaty, if fully realized, is that we understand what's available when there's a mutual exchange, when there's a mutual respect, and there's mana motahaki. So there is sovereignty, but so it's sovereignty in terms of a personal responsibility and a certain form of leadership, which takes into account takes action according to very simple values, making sure that the land is looked after, making sure that the people is looked after, making sure that future generations are looked after. And essentially being of service to something beyond yourself. That's one of the core tenets of Mātauranga Māori that just goes without saying to some degree. But it's also what we're looking for as men and as human beings, to live a life of purpose. We're looking to live a life of value. And I sort of stumbled across it after years of searching of like what do I actually want to do? What do I bring into the world? And one of my coaches actually said, one of the best things I got from a coach was saying that you should really harness yourself to a vision that you could never ever achieve by yourself. Be in the service of a vision which is much bigger than you yourself can achieve.
Love it.
Because that actually provides a lot of relief. Like if we're only working towards that, according to our capacity, it's very limited what we can do. But if we want to make a stand for something in the world, we can make our contribution each and every day, and use it as our po, as our marker. Is what I'm doing here in service of that vision, or not? So it's a great way of aligning ourselves. And to some degree, that's how I've been living the last couple of years. I've just been saying yes to things that are aligned and no to things that are not. And then I find myself surrounded by people like yourself and connecting with fields, which are popping up more and more. The sort of the confluence of men's work and well-being and rites of passage. And I've literally spent the last 2 months traveling the country, tapping into different little pockets of revolution, I would say. Revolution or evolution. um, and it's my vision is that we actually set a standard for the rest of the world in terms of reconciliation and acknowledgement of what's available you know, when we go through a process of healing, um, and realizing the potential of what we're talking about with the treaty of two people actually living together in harmony, sharing the gifts which are available,
Mm.
you know. And maybe that's a dream, but that's a dream that many people have expressed. Dame Fina Cooper spoke about it. I think of James K. Baxter, and he spoke and tried an experiment with the commune down in Ranana. Talked about the double rainbow, about what's possible when Maori and Pakeha actually forge a true relationship with the Maori, almost the elder brothers or the elder sisters, offering them guidance and wisdom to the younger brothers, younger brothers and sisters that have arrived here on these shores.
Mm.
That was a very powerful vision, which still resonates for me.
Awesome, bro. Tell me about your ancestors. Tell me about your festival, your
Yes,
given surname or family name.
yeah. So my name's Kevin Helas. I was born in the Waikato. My dad was Mick Helas, Michael Anthony. He came to New Zealand from England post-war. He was in London during the war, Second World War.
Mm.
He came with a dream to come back and be on the land to work with animals. So he actually came to be a dairy farmer. Um, he met my mum. She was living in Whaingaroa at the time, so I have a real connection with Whaingaroa as
Mm.
probably my spiritual home out there. They got married there. Um, yeah, so and she was New Zealand born, but I think she had roots maybe second generation New Zealand. But we found we spent I spent my childhood in Kirikiriroa, growing up in Waikato. So I don't know of any roots to iwi, but there's so many strands appearing through, even connection with Tainui and affiliations with that. It just keeps leaking through everywhere. Even learning about the travels of Tainui through the Waihau Bay. I had no idea
Mm.
of the origins there. I'm living in the Waitakere Ranges now, and I understand that there's connections there with the tohunga which fled from the Tainui canoe up north, found a home
You're
here.
you're born of this land, brother, and so the Waikato River coming out of Lake Taupo,
Mm,
your birth waters, brother.
that's it. That's it. I was born yeah, on the yeah, absolutely. I feel that. I feel that in my bones, and I feel that part of the healing is to understand. I don't know, is to that's a journey I'm still on. Like I think it's a connection with being human being. We all
Mm.
require a connection to the land of our birth, and with that comes deep responsibility.
Tell
You
tell
know.
me a bit more about that name. So you told me where
Oh,
your
Helis.
father came from. Tell me the origins of that name.
Well, this I haven't searched, but I do think there's some Hellas. Obviously, it's very close to Hellas, the Greek name, and I think there's too much of a link there for me in terms of the Greek
Agree.
culture and time spent there that given a chance, I cooked a Greek inspired meal for the Poutama rites this last weekend,
Yeah, yeah.
which went down very well. But to me, that's like an infusion of the sun and like the qualities that some of those cultures bring to food are really like very primal. The
Mm.
sort of the punch of the mountain herbs from Crete and the sun-soaked tomatoes and just the life and the light that is absorbed in food and the vitality that you get from it
Mm.
and the simplicity of sometimes it's not always fine dining or elaborate cuisine. It's just the appreciation of those ingredients and what they imbue, what they provide us when you just really
Mm.
live from that.
Yeah, and aren't we blessed to live in a country like Aotearoa for the all the plants and foods that grew here naturally, but then all the infusions of other plants that have arrived over the years
Yep.
and that we have access to. And, as you're talking about those Greek origin foods, I guess, two that come to mind, rosemary, which is the essence of memory, activates
Mm.
the memory,
Mm.
but also has so many properties, um, you're talking about microbial properties and also the other one came to mind in Greek is the bay leaves.
Yes.
Those two ingredients go in the first meal of all of my retreats, together with some whole organic free range chickens and some other herbs out of the land.
Yeah.
And to me, that is being human, the unity, all of those things coming together from the land, but also the memory of our ancestors and the,
Yeah.
the journey of our ancestors.
Wonderful.
Tell me,
What?
brother,
Mm.
let's let's come back to food.
Mm.
And if you were to cook a meal tonight and you had between now, which we're talking at 10:15,
Mm.
and now and the end of today, someone
Mm.
really special turned up for dinner, what would you cook for them with half a day's notice?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yeah. What would I cook? See, I depends who the person is. Um, that's a really hard question to ask, actually, and to answer because I think well, let's just think about at the moment because I'm deep in the planning for next week, right?
Mm,
And you and I have already had conversations about this,
mm,
and maybe that's the one to speak of is like meal planning for this event, right?
yep.
And there's so many different strands with it. Firstly, there's this beautiful exchange and collaboration taking place with you of what you've done in the past, of stuff that's shown up, like beautiful produce which is coming from Bostock and other sources around really good quality meat and products which are raised and prepared consciously. Already that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the provenance. Where does this stuff come from? Who's producing it? How are they doing it?
Mm,
You've already talked about the banana leaves from your land and the herbs, and already it's like, right, well, that's the quality of this is this is worth thinking about. And you could with my training as well, this whole macrobiotic principle, it dovetails with the biodynamics farming and the sort of principles of Rudolf Steiner, which my kids go to Steiner school up here, right? But you can go at a very simple level. There's this whole culture of tradition of the biology of our food responding to our biology. We can literally go into the garden and scatter our hair clippings when we trim our hair, and the garden and the produce will transform or mutate in order to support our biology and to give us the healing that we need.
mm,
Now you can believe that or not. There's probably not been studies done on it, but that's the principle we're talking about the fusion of the connectedness of us with our land. So when you go out and you're actually spreading your biology on the land and you're growing vegetables which responds to you personally, surprise, surprise, that food can be, extremely healing for you to be infusing into your diet. So that's where herbs are incredible. If you even grow a small patch of herbs. But what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of like flavor. I'm thinking of, energy, vitality as much as possible, getting like the freshest possible, highest vitality produce. We're going to be following a sort of keto strand, so it's largely sort of protein, meat based, but with vegetables, less on the sort of carbo front, carbohydrates. Um, I'm happy to weave according to the different requirements of something and to explore that. I've just come from a retreat where it was largely meat based and fairly conventional, but I would be always looking to elevate the food and to transform it.
mm,
Um, And someone actually said something to me. There was a lot of wahine on that program, and they're the ones who usually, hold the weight of providing for food. And one woman said, I've got 10 people in my family, and I'm constantly feeding for them. So to come here to be cooked for with aroha and real care and attention is such a gift, right? So that alone, to be cared for and the difference of someone actually preparing food with total awareness, with total commitment. It's not, and to receive that is so deeply nourishing to us, right? And I know for myself, it's like it's such a pleasure to be fed by somebody who really has that care and attention around food, and to be surprised by it. We respond to surprise. We respond to like, oh wow, that tastes good. I don't know how they've done that, but it tastes amazing. So that's my, no matter what I'm cooking, I'm looking to try and create a flavor which I know works for myself, but also invariably that is something which is really well received by other people. So it's such an exchange, and that's my commitment also with cooking, is that developing that confidence and competence in the kitchen. It's extraordinary what worlds open up in that. So you develop your own intuition, your own trust, your own sovereignty around taste and flavor. You're not guided by a recipe, or you're like, oh, if you start with a recipe, but then you say, no, that needs more of this. I know, I'll grab this, I'm going to add this, or I'm going to replace that. You actually develop something. I think it's a spiritual pathway, simply because you're developing all your senses, your sensibility, your sensitivity, your sensuality. It's extremely powerful, because not only does that open up, but it's the senses beyond that. It's the sense of synchronicity. It's a sense of like magic that starts to occur. And for me, the realm of cooking is like it's the practice where you can really get used to being in the unknown as a place of excitement, and develop the muscle of stepping outside your comfort zone. It's the one place I've found that if I haven't done it before, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. I'll do it because I haven't done it. And it brings excitement rather than anxiety. And
Awesome. Awesome,
yeah,
brother.
I see. I was a bit freeform to your answer to
You
your
know me,
question.
brother. I love free flowing. And
Mm.
yeah, you spoke to the word synchronicity, and then you're talking about Rudolf Steiner and Lay Me Down. And I didn't pipe in then, I just let you go. But Lay Me Down. I started reading my first Rudolf Steiner book this morning.
Did you really?
There's a synchronicity for you. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, amazing.
Can I ask
And
which one it is? What's the one you're reading?
I think it's called The Fifth Gospel.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And something that was coming through in that was Kai is your love language, bro. It's how you express aroha. And I think we're brothers in that regard, bro. You know,
Mm.
for me, it's come more to the fore over recent years, especially COVID. Over
Mm.
the COVID years, there was nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go, and sometimes no restaurants
Yeah.
to go to. And there were a time I wasn't allowed to go to restaurants. And so getting in the kitchen was my way to show love to, especially my kids
Yeah.
and my partner Tia, my stepson Noah, yeah, my two kids Bella and Oscar, and just that continuity of whenever they turned up here at home, that
Mm.
there's some beautiful kai here, and to me
Mm.
that's my love language as well, bro. So definitely hearing that, and when men come on my retreats,
Yeah.
just like you're saying, it's like I imagine that it is a men's retreat, but I almost imagine I'm like a witch in the kitchen, boiling the cauldron with love, right? To like, we're really going to put some aroha and healing into this food so
Yeah.
that men go away feeling lighter and refreshed and recalibrated and healing and whole and human.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to invite, this is for the listeners too, because I was very privileged with my training, because literally I would be training and cooking for retreat spaces, right? So there's literally a ground floor kitchen where we're cooking the food for people upstairs above us,
Mm,
going through a process of deep healing and vulnerability and like emotional sharing. And we could feel in the kitchen what was going on upstairs.
mm,
Like often it would be like there would be a discharge. There'd be someone would burn something or drop a pot or literally it'd be like, oh wow, something's going on upstairs that we're a reflection of or we're sort of having to hold in the space of the kitchen. And it happened too many times. You're talking about synchronicity. It happened too many times to be coincidental, and I realized that that's actually what you're doing in the kitchen. You're actually working with the elements. You may have feelings coming up which are not even yours. You're like, where does that come from? But you're like, literally, when you hold in the mind's eye who you're cooking for, you will be able to, be charged with. You're using aroha as a healing power, and that's why we love our mother's food. It's like, why does this taste so good? It's because she's making that food, she's making that cake to celebrate this life that she's brought into this world. And how is it that when we eat it, it's like we dissolve, into love.
mm.
Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, beautiful. I will also say one thing, which this is the big challenge, is can we use food as a love language for ourselves? Can we really like, and one of my favorite things to say is, can you prepare a plate of food for yourself as if you were preparing that plate of food for a lover?
Mm,
So you give it the same care and attention in the way you plate it up. You don't just go and bang, it's there's nothing wrong with sardines on toast or baked beans on toast. That's all fine. But, you dress it up with a little bit of color or you sit down and in a moment of gratitude for what's in front of you and for your life
mm.
and go, wow, I'm so grateful for this and I deserve this. I deserve to be, receiving this nourishment.
Talking daily to men that have come to an impasse, burnt out, stressed out, hit the wall. Quite often men don't put their hand up until they're really at rock bottom because they're the ones trying to
Mm,
hold it all together, yeah. And quite a lot of times that's men are on their own. They might be going through a separation, not seeing their kids,
mm,
and loading the weight of the world and blame on their own shoulders.
yep,
Uh, See it a lot. One of the things I'll often ask is just like you've said there about cooking yourself something beautiful on the plate, showing yourself some love. I'll say, when have you taken yourself out to dinner? Ah, nah, haven't done that. Maybe ever, if not for a long time. I'm like, today, bro, I'm giving you permission to go and treat yourself to a nice lunch or dinner. And you see the smile start to show on their face. It's like, yeah, it's time,
yeah.
brother. Show yourself some love. Everything starts with yourself, right?
Yeah, and further to that, I would say that this isn't about the perfect story, right? It may well be that sitting down in front of the plate, you're consumed by grief or sadness
Mm,
or the longing for something which you haven't been receiving.
mm,
But that in itself will be the gift that plate offers you of actually a moment of reflection and a moment of opening up to yourself.
mm,
Because I think this is a real issue for men, is that often we spend a life in service of something or trying to create something in service of our family, of our partners, our children. And we lose connection with what it is that we really want and need. And often we end up in those situations where all, things fall apart. I can, I'm in that situation myself. I'm twice divorced. I'm now, I'm in a moment of reflection of what is it that I've been neglecting in myself. And this is I have a path through cooking and my connection with food and cooking to really start to ask those questions and then wait for those answers to emerge.
mm,
Um, and that's often what's missing.
mm. Like you said with the kitchen, as above, so below. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
like provider as men, we feel we should be the provider, providing for others. Actually, the meaning of this word really is, are you attuned to everything that the universe is providing for you? Are you ready to receive that? Yeah, because
Yeah.
nature provides, the universe provides, God provides, Spirit provides, and
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah, and
Uh,
that shows up on the plate.
well, I realize too is that there's so many threads here which resonate, but through cooking, I realized it's an avenue for me to have a lived experience of abundance
Mm,
and to step out of the paradigm of survival. And I think this is the paradigm we've been living in as human beings for 20 odd thousand years. And that's why we're suffering so much, both, on an individual level, but also collectively, is that we're sort of in an end game of that paradigm of survival. And we're having to reconnect with what it means to actually live beyond survival and community and connection with, people. Step out of this individual way of living, step out of this paradigm of war and conflict. And we have to find ways to do that because we don't have a direct lived experience of it, but we do have paths. And one of the most amazing way is to really connect with our food in this way and just be in gratitude of like, wow, this is when I take a moment to step outside the noise, we literally have everything we need, especially when we take care of others and we live in service of others first without compromising ourselves, without going without or without becoming a martyr or that's that as you say, that's the provider thing. The provider thing is not just giving without without looking after yourself, but it's literally going, I can give freely because I know I'm going to be taken care of, and actually what's going to come back is going to be tenfold.
mm,
And it may not be even monetary all the time. It's unlikely to be, but there's things that are of real value that are absolutely not, they're nourishing to us beyond the food, and they're about those moments of connection and presence and actually experiencing ourselves in that state of selflessness in a way,
mm.
standing in our gifts.
The stopping before we eat our kai, the prayer, the karakia,
Mm,
is as much as just that pause, yeah. The gratitude for what's on the plate,
mm,
where it's come from, and you know, we bring that back to our nervous system
mm,
and the real work, which is nervous system regulation, going from fight or flight, like you're talking about, this
mm.
this concept that there isn't enough. And when we come back into the prayer before our meal, which is really there to drop us into the other side of our nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, rest, and the key word being digest, because digesting our food is only done in our parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, so the whole concept of eating calms us down, brings
Mm.
us back into equilibrium. But we need to, that is, when people think you might be saying a prayer because you're have some religious affiliations. No, it is a pause.
Yeah.
Always has been a pause to go from the stresses of the world into take a breath, be
Yeah.
grateful, rest and digest.
Well, it's amazing how I've literally got a poster up in front of me, that principle of doing exactly that, but then taking 5 deep breaths before you start eating.
Mm,
And actually, part of that is just tuning into where am I? Because often as we sit down to eat, we've obviously been busy, we're preparing the food, or we're in a rush. So we need to self-regulate. We need to actually sort of connect to our breath and our body first before to ensure our body is receptive to the nourishment we're just about to put into it, right?
mm.
So exactly, that's beyond the prayer. It's just a practical thing to do as well. Yeah.
Awesome, brother. And I want to honor you coming down to this kaupapa Aotearoa Men's Wellbeing Summit, especially when you are a single dad looking after two children.
Mm.
And I honor that, brother, and honor everything that comes with that.
Yeah.
Tell us, there's probably a few single dads out there that cook for
Mm.
their kids. Can you give us a few quick tips that might help them just in terms of putting nutritious food for everyone on the plate in an easy way?
Mm. Well, I think as much as possible. I mean, firstly, I'm very grateful, Carl. I'm so pleased to make this connection with you personally and in this mahi. So I'm really excited to be joining you and joining the men going down there. Um, I think single dads, I think cooking is an incredible way to engage with your kids, right?
Mm,
So I've got a boy who's 7 and a daughter who's 12, and often there's a bit of resistance around food and cooking, but they love taking part and just being part of creating a meal. I've had my son stripping kale for 2 hours, for a big beautiful soup. My daughter's always loved cooking. She's already, taken on her own repertoire from working with me. She actually, I think it's just inspiring, and sometimes it's a great way to get them away from the screens, get them physically active doing something. And actually, the journey of coming up against it's a life skill thing, coming up against things you don't know how to do it. So
mm,
find what they love doing and let them make it. I made gingerbread cookies with my son, and he loved it. You know, get them making a mess. Work out how to make a simple bread and get them to mix the flour and water. That's just joy. And don't worry about the mess. It's just fun. It's fun. Get them playing, get them engaged. Um, Find out what they like and get them making it, and then they'll love it. Same thing with being in the garden. You know, just engaging with the whole every step of the way, planting things, and then hey, why don't we use some of those tomatoes that we planted and grew and make something with that.
mm.
It's just getting them in touch with the cycles of the beauty and the sort of magic of it all. Um, in terms of cooking things, it's funny. I think single dads will face this. My son, particularly as the age, I think it's a boys thing. They really double down, especially when that's been through tough times. The only sphere of control they have is on whether they say yes or no to eating food. So I've really noticed that in my son, particularly if you've been through a separation or divorce. The kids want a little bit of power, a little bit of control. So it's being compassionate around that and sort of just being patient. Um, but also just establishing rules of, we have a rule around trying things in our house. You don't have to have something, but try it. And I've had to be super patient with that, and it's still a journey. Um, but just noticing the kids themselves will have reaction to difficult moments in a family's life, and when things fracture. Um, but just bringing joy to the process of food, but try to really eat well. Resist the urge to go to McDonald's. Take them to a great Hong Kong noodle space.
Mm.
Teach them the joy of dumplings and noodles and simple things in other cultures and cuisines, and go to places
That's
where
the way, brother.
yeah, we,
You can
we
travel in
know
your own country, travel the world in your own
absolutely.
country. Yeah.
Go down Dominion Road in Auckland and just have a ball. Wow, this is people doing things well from different cultures.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Oh, well, I hear elements of your own hero's journey, getting through adversity, and you're a
yeah.
resilient man and a good man, brother. I love, this work that we're about to go and do is
Mm,
men's work. It's a journey into the masculine, but it's also, in this discussion, we're weaving
mm,
in threads of the feminine and the nurturing, and which we're supposed to hold both, right?
yeah,
Uh, and we can do that as men. We can be
yeah,
warriors, we can be strong, we can be toe, but part of this discussion that we're talking about flipping the poles of control from top down, fear, scarcity, flipping it to more a feminine view of the world, which is nurturing, abundance, life, ground up. And this is part of the work we're doing, bringing everything back into balance.
Absolutely. You've just made me, with that little kōrero, one of my teachers said that the thing that sets us apart as human beings is our capacity to die multiple times. So as men, often we find ourselves going through moments of death, I would say, death to ourselves, death of an identity. And it can be the most painful thing in the world. And often that's the challenge we face as men, is to come to a point when our life just falls apart as we know it. Even if we've, ticked all the boxes or looked to create something, it can evaporate. But that's also a gateway. It's a gateway to new versions of ourselves and whole new lives. And I, having lived through a couple of those myself, I can vouch for what lies on the other side. When nothing seems possible, it's actually it's because it's a rebirth, a rebirth to myself and a realignment to myself of who I always was and who I already am, and we all have that opportunity as men.
We all have that opportunity. For other men, it doesn't have to be as messy as either of our journeys. And
Nope.
I'd highly encourage men to come to our Aotearoa Men's Wellbeing Retreat, and you'll be held by men who have been through some messier versions, so that you can go through a 3-day version. To step into a one where you go through a controlled, managed journey, looking into aspects of things you want to let go of, and then you just go back into the world, a better version of yourself. Having stepped through a threshold, and go back to your families, your loved ones, and just show up as the light that you are.
That's
and
it.
on that note, brother, thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you in person next week. Thanks to everyone who's listened in to this beautiful kōrero. And I think we'll be on the phone a little bit more before I see you in person.
We will.
Beautiful kai. It's going to come out of Kevin's kitchen in Opoutere.
The collaboration.
Yeah, brother.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to it. All right.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you there. Come join us.
New Zealand men are at the wrong end of most health statistics. We've created a wellbeing event especially for the wild hearts of men. Connection, brotherhood, clean eating, moving in nature, holding each other to account. If you're doing it tough and you feel like you're in the trenches, this is an opportunity to find some elevation, answers and purpose. The Aotearoa Men's Wellbeing Summit is about walking the walk, embodying mental and physical wellbeing. 14 to 16 May 2026, beautiful Opoutere, Coromandel. Rub shoulders with men at the forefront of creating positive change in Aotearoa. Come on your own or bring your team. Book your tickets at www.theprovider.co.nz. See you there.